And what I say to that is, yeah, you also probably have a 30-year mortgage and you're not going to stay there. And you probably, paid for an expensive kitchen or some feature in your house that cost some money, and you're not worried about getting the money back before you leave the house. And the reason for that is, right, that's going to have lasting value. The same is true of solar panels. So this is from the government website, right? But you can see that a house with solar panels will sell for more money. And you might be asking yourself, well, Ryan, if you really believe that, why doesn't your wife put solar panels on spec houses she builds? And we've had many conversations about that, and the next one she is building will have solar panels. So. All right, and then kind of the other thing is, well, that's great, Ryan. I don't have 15 grand lying around, and I already don't love my mortgage payment. So the interesting bit, right, is that if you add solar panels into your mortgage, especially with where interest rates are now, it'll pay for itself on a month-to-month basis. So if you run through the calcs, right, and at the time I first made this, rates were at 4%, not where they are now. Adding 15 grand to your mortgage will cost, I used an average house price, but it'll cost something like $70 a month. So as long as your solar panels generate more than that, they would essentially be paying for themselves. And then when you go to sell your house, presumably you will get that money back and the environmental benefits. And then I think I'm getting towards the end here, but I just wanted to do kind of a quick slide on what this looks like in real life. So the blue line is the power my house consumed in 2018. And then these other two lines are the power my house is consuming now. So this represents I'm using about 20 to 25% of the power I was generating, or I was using. And then the other comment here is you can see sometimes my power usage goes negative. So Jenny's familiar with this scenario, but if your solar panels generate more power than you use, your electric bill is $13, and the excess power rolls over as a credit onto the next month. And then kind of the last question is, well, if they really pay for themselves, why isn't everyone doing this? And I think the answer is that I don't think people are broadly aware of it, but I did find kind of the slide that shows that it looks like people are catching on. As you can see, a lot more people are installing panels these days. Oh, okay. And then last slide, right? So now you're thoroughly convinced that you should run off and put panels on your house. Maybe Joel can help you with that. I didn't know where to start, and so I didn't even realize Jefferson Electric was doing it. So I went to a website called energysage.com, and it took a few minutes, and they give you multiple bids, and it's not like a mortgage broker type of thing. Like I didn't get phone calls every day for the next 20 days after that. There was none of that. But they're the ones that actually ended up putting me in touch with Jefferson Electric. I have had relatively little interaction with Jefferson since the panels have been installed because you don't do anything. They just work, and there's no, I don't think I've talked to them at all since they've been installed, actually. So it just happens on its own, and it's lovely. And again, I have no financial interest. I just thought it'd be nice to share this so that if people wanted to take action, they had some next steps. But again, I think Joel's going to be a better resource for that. All right, I'm done talking.
Ryan, thank you so much. So good to hear about your story.
No problem.
And why you love them.
And I think you said questions would be later, and I probably didn't stick to 10 minutes very well. So I'll hang on the phone if there are more questions later.
Sounds good. Yeah. Jenny, I know you're on the call right now. Could you add a little bit about why you got solar panels and why you've loved them?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I think you were instrumental in helping me do the math. It kind of crossed my radar at one point I think it was a couple different people that had talked about it. And then I think Ryan helped me a little bit with the math, figuring out the federal tax credits. I went to there's a co-op. So I went to the co-op meeting to talk more about it. And then when I had the eval, so the thing about solar is not everybody can do it. If you live in Indiana and you do not have a proper southern facing roof, like if your north facing roof is the big side or you have east west, you're probably not going to have, and Joel can talk about this more, you're not going to have the exposure that you need. Shade is a factor. And the slope of your roof is also a factor. Joel can talk more about this, but I had the eval done and I did have a perfect candidate for a roof. Overlooking the garden, which will not be built on unless I choose to. So it just worked out really well. And then Ryan also helped me do the math to realize that I had 1,300 kilowatts that was rolling over every month. And when you figure out what it takes to power an EV, an electric vehicle, I had enough extra power rolling over every month to power an electric vehicle for 6 months, just with my extra power. So my system was clearly big enough. So I pushed that EV purchase up. I thought I was going to have to get a couple kids to move out of the house before I had an extra power, but my system is really cranking it out. So now I have a car that is literally powered by the sun, which is the bomb.
It's pretty cool. That feels like your life goals have been achieved. You're done.
That one for sure. That one for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks.
I have a couple other goals, but not many.
Yeah. So good. Okay, Joel, we're going to turn it over to you. And I know we've mentioned this a couple of times, but would you mind giving us like a brief intro on yourself and your connection to Platt before you kind of jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the owner, founder, and CEO of Jefferson Electric. We've been in business about a decade. We actually wired both Foundry Provisions and your office there on 16th Street, worked with Mark back in 2012, 13, I don't know, I'd have to pull up the dates. So that was a fun project. And work with Nottingham Properties, work with obviously Jenny and Ryan. And most recently, last Friday, I was on Tatum Hill's roof installing solar panels there as well. They've got a beautiful new house, credit to, I think, at least in part, Melissa Iannucci. And so Jefferson Electric, our primary connection with Platt Collective is handling inspection responses when there are electrical needs. We're all in this old north side, east side neighborhood. So knob and tube is a frequent flyer request that we get, as well as your typical double tap neutrals, missing GFCI protection. So happy to have you send those directly to me, Joel at jeffersonelectricllc.com. Usually get those turned around pretty quick for you guys. Appreciate all the work that you provide to us. Very thankful for that. I know my kids are. So Jefferson Electric has 38 team members. We cover the entire state of Indiana for solar energy. We offer Tesla products, the Tesla Powerwall, as well as lots of home vehicle charging stations for residential consumers. Little tip and trick here, the IPL has an EVX program, so customers can take advantage of off-peak charging rates, and you can actually drive and operate a Tesla for less than $50 a year in electricity. That's if you're not as lucky to be operating it for free, like Jenny. Did you ask another part to that question, Rosie, or are there any details you want me to flesh out there?
Nope, that's perfect. I just wanted people to know who you were.
Can you hear me all right? I can adjust my microphone.
Nope.
Good.
Lovely.
Good. Ryan, your slide deck was really thorough. Really impressed with that. You've thought through solar energy at a deeper level than most consumers, and I applaud that. It's really good. A couple things come to mind from a real estate perspective. I concur with Ryan that solar energy does increase the value of a home. A couple ways to think about that are when people think of the cost of living, obviously the utility bill shows up on the listing. And if that utility bill, your monthly electric cost is $13, That's very attractive to a buyer who's used to seeing $50 to $250 in that position. So that you've essentially stabilized or fixed the cost of living for the next buyer, and they've rolled that into a home mortgage. We just bought a home in Warren Park, and I think our mortgage is 2.71%. So fantastic way to buy solar is to kind of transition that benefit to the next homeowner. And it is recognized both nationally and locally in verified statistics. Solar energy can be applied to any roof surface, whether it's metal, commercial roof, low slope, standing seam, exposed fastener, EPDM, TPO, asphalt shingle. There's not a limitation. The solar industry has taken all of the commercial and residential roofing methods and adapted them for solar attachments and purposes. So they're non-penetrating roof attachments, not for residential asphalt shingles, but for many other roof types. So you don't even have to drill holes in your roof to install solar. That being said, we have zero in 270 projects, zero roof leaks. So that's kind of a big question that comes up. What will you do to my roof? We won't void the warranty. We'll treat it with care. We'll wear specialized boots with foam pads and no leaks. Boom. Something else to consider, Zillow has, I think it's called a sun score, and Google has a project solar roof, and they provide a scoring or a rating for any home across America, pretty much. I don't know if there are any exceptions to that. The accuracy is probably plus or minus about 35%. So it's worth having a valuation if you have an interest or a client who has an interest in solar energy and getting real specific. As Jenny mentioned, the pitch of the roof, the orientation of the roof with respect to due south, 30 degrees due south is optimal. You can kind of tuck that number away, and then transitioning or moving from that orientation or inclination reduces the efficiency of the solar panels. But actually in California right now, we brought a trainer out. He's been in the industry for almost 20 years. And he said he just last year installed solar panels on the north face of his roof that have a better return on investment than the solar panels on the south face of his roof that he installed 8 years ago, because the cost has declined substantially and the efficiency has improved so much. So his roof is not quite as steep as yours, Jenny, but it's remarkable where the industry has come. Not a lot of people realize that actually there are something like 100 countries that have reached grid parity. That means that the cost of solar energy is equal to or less than the cost of traditional energy generation. And so that's a huge benchmark for solar. I could go on and on. I want to get not too far afield from what's relevant to real estate. Any thoughts, questions that come to mind? Like I said, I think Ryan did a really excellent job, covered a lot of the baselines, and I don't want to get in the weeds from a technical aspect. Well, a couple thoughts come to mind. One is you can hold installers accountable to really good monitoring, maintenance, and warranty terms. With solar energy, there is zero preventive maintenance that needs to be performed. So unlike your car, there are no oil changes or anything of that nature, no brake jobs. So it literally is like Ryan said, we've not interacted with Ryan. I'm looking at his system now on our online dashboard. It reports automatically to us. And to date, Ryan doesn't have any faults in the system. If he would, then it's likely that we would be first to reach out to him and say, hey, we've been on with support with the manufacturer, and Ryan, your upper left module has experienced an outage. We're going to roll a tech out with the necessary parts at your convenience, and we'll take care of that. So usually we don't have to enter the home typically, and those things get taken care of under a 25-year warranty that covers not only the material cost, but also the labor cost of repairs and replacements. So the solar industry has really stepped up to bat to provide robust offerings. Oh, Ryan says he looks at it every day to see how much power it's making and show his kids. That's great. So you'll probably beat us to it. We look at it once a week for you. So Jefferson Electric offers a forever warranty. The panels come with a 25-year warranty, depending on which manufacturer you go with, as well as a 25-year product warranty and production warranty. And that covers labor and parts. So really robust offering from the solar industry currently.
Joel, I have two questions for you. One,
Good.
like, what happens if like leaves or tree branches or whatever are falling on your solar panels regularly? Like, do you have to get up there and clean that, or like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So I'll run through a suite of different things to consider. One is leaves and tree branches. Solar panels are extremely robust. One of our manufacturers actually has a promo video of a 1500 Ram truck with one wheel squarely positioned in the center of a solar panel. So 4 solar panels supporting the weight of a Ram 1500. It's pretty compelling. You can jump, just like a lot of the window guys do, you know, they put the window down and they jump on it to show you how strong it is. Same thing with solar panels. There's nobody in this chat that would be capable of jumping high enough and landing hard enough to shatter a solar panel. So they're extremely durable. They are rated by the manufacturer and warranted up to 1-inch hail, and some of them even higher than that, up to 2-inch hail. So there's seamless coverage between your homeowner's insurance, which will probably not be affected by installing solar. There might be a small annual premium of up to $50 we've seen homeowners experience. And so between the manufacturer's warranty and your homeowner's insurance, you have seamless coverage of your investment. Another consideration is wind. The solar panels installation is designed and rated up to an F2 tornado. And so when you look at the durability characteristics of solar panels, if there's been damage to your solar panels, your roof, gutters, siding, and windows have already been destroyed. So you're looking at a pretty major insurance event there. Maintenance, only in really arid, very dry and dusty climates do solar panels get washed. We have enough driving rain in Indiana that there's nobody that I'm aware of, and we don't perform the service that washes solar panels. That's really relegated to New Mexico and Arizona. So no maintenance in that respect. If you're in a heavily wooded kind of area where you do have southern exposure and daylight, but you have a lot of trees surrounding and you're used to heavy buildup of leaves in your gutters, then there's a chance that you might want to perform the same maintenance to the racking structure that supports the solar panels as you would to your gutters, just blowing the leaves out, cleaning the leaves out, whatever that looks like for you. But it's not going to be more rigorous than what you're used to doing for your home already in that environment.
Yeah, that's great. My other question was, I mean, you've been working in this industry for quite a long time now. Have you seen like an increase in people using solar panels? And do you think that we could get to the point where there would potentially be more people using solar panels than not?
Absolutely. Yeah, in my mind, we've transitioned, and I think it's statistically accurate. In Indiana, we've transitioned from early adopters to the early majority. I don't know if you've ever seen that bell curve. And so we're now in probably the early portion of 34.6% adoption, that early majority. And that's where economies of scale increase dramatically, which drives pricing down on an ongoing basis. So yeah, absolutely. The U.S. Department of Labor projects that solar panel installer, that specific job category, is currently and will be the highest growing job category for the next decade without exception.
That's awesome. We had a question pop up from Phil Kirk over in the chat. He says, how do you navigate roof replacement if solar panels are installed on a roof with 10 years of life left? Does it cost extra for a panel remove and reinstall after a roof replacement?
Yep, great question. So there are two options there. One is a full removal and replacement, and that can cost up to 1/3 of the original cost of the solar panels. So you do want to be conscious about timing the life cycle of the solar panels and the roof in relative similarity, because you really are installing a 25-year guaranteed solar array that has a predicted lifespan of 35 years. A lot of commercial roofing products, metal, TPO, EPDM, have 50-year lifespans, so that plays really well with solar panels. Another concept, and I did this on my own house actually, is roof max. This is kind of something that applies actually to all of you beyond just solar energy. Roof max has been featured on PBS and several other platforms. As third-party testing, we're not a RoofMax dealer. I've got nothing to gain by promoting RoofMax, but my roof on my former personal residence was 25 years old. It's a 12-12 pitch. It's 2.5 stories in the air, and there's nothing cheap about replacing it. RoofMax offers a 5-year guarantee, and it can be applied and reapplied up to 3 times. What it is, it's a food-grade soy application that gets sprayed onto the roof, and it rehydrates the asphalt, which is the bonding agent for the granules. So if a roof has at least 75% or more of its original granular, then RoofMax can be applied, and that life can be extended for 5 years. And then it can be reapplied after that, and RoofMax guarantees up to a 15-year life extension. So my roof was about $1,000 to have that installed, with a 5-year guarantee and a guarantee letter that my roofing warranty was not compromised. And it's something that I can then pass off to the buyer of my home, saying that this roof has a 5-year guarantee, even though it would have been at the end of its expected life. So that's kind of a nifty product, RoofMax. Max is spelled with 2 X's. Yeah.
Especially
so if you've got
clients who are in like a tough spot financially, for them to use that if a roof is potentially at the end of its life. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Guys, do you have any other questions for both Joel or Ryan about solar energy, or for Joel, like any kind of electrical question? You can hit him and test him with it right now.
Okay, 2 more thoughts come to mind here while you're thinking of your questions. One is IHP, Indiana Historic Preservation Committee, IHPC. They do allow solar panels. We have 2 solar arrays in Woodruff Place and many in cottage homes, Old North Side, etc. And the general rule of thumb is minimizing visibility of the array from the street. Not eliminating, not necessarily preventing, but just minimizing visibility of the array from the street. Another possible hindrance to solar energy is homeowners associations, which tend to be most active in Carmel. That's where we've encountered the most resistance to solar energy. That'll kill probably 1 out of 4 deals in Carmel, but again, not as active other places. The Village in Zionsville is very friendly to solar energy. We have quite a few installations there.
Joel, are you seeing people install batteries yet?
Yeah, so we have currently about 40 Tesla Powerwalls installed, as well as a couple other battery technologies in Indiana. And I think we've got order placements for something like 10 more. And so it is becoming much more attractive and reasonable. There is actually a return on investment for battery technology now, particularly with customers whose utility is an REMC and they do not have net metering. What takes place in that circumstance is when the customer produces an excess of energy that's not instantaneously consumed in the home, that energy is then pushed to the grid. So in theory, only a fraction of the overall energy produced is pushed to the grid, and the REMC provides them with a percentage of that value and then charges them the full sum of value when they pull energy later that night or evening once the sun has set. So they're actually experiencing a financial loss. There's not a loss of energy, but there is a financial loss because the utility has justified that, saying that we're maintaining the grid, which is a value that you're utilizing that essentially as your battery. And so we're only going to give you a percentage of the value. So those customers then operate in what's called self-consumption mode. When they have a battery, that energy that's produced is immediately consumed in their home. And if not, then the excess is pushed into a battery. And those batteries can be coupled or gained such that you could have one, or we have a couple customers with 7 or 8 Tesla Powerwalls that have large estates. Those customers can then operate in self-consumption mode where that energy is stored, and then they consume their energy later in the day such that they're operating autonomously, and the utility grid is now just the backup source of energy if something should blip in their home, or if they should have a moment where they instantaneously consume more than what the solar or the batteries can supply them with. You can always introduce a generator into that topology as well, such that you have essentially 4 sources of energy, primarily solar, backed up by battery, with a backup to the backup of a generator, and then the grid as just the fail-safe. One thing that's interesting is Tesla's applied for and been approved. Oh, I'm geeking out for just a minute. I'm going to keep it like 30 seconds. Tesla has been applied for and have been approved for a utility license in the UK, and their initiative is to use Tesla vehicles for grid stabilization and arbitrage. So somebody like Jenny, who has a Tesla, who lives in the UK, plugs in their Tesla because the battery likes to be maintained. It keeps it warm and topped off, so to speak. And so when electricity is cheap, Jenny can set the standard to draw energy from the grid and fill the battery. Then when electricity is in high demand and becomes expensive, she can deploy that battery pack back to the grid and actually be buying low and selling high on a daily basis when she's parked at work, or anytime she's plugged in, she can buy low, sell high, such that now her vehicle not only is inexpensive to operate and has 118 mile per gallon equivalent, but also has a return on the investment because it's performing grid stabilization, frequency stabilization. It's actually improving the quality of the electricity that's being sent into homes and buildings, and it's stabilizing the grid by deploying excess energy to the grid when demand is high. So Jenny's now making a buck on her vehicle, and it's going to pay for itself in like 10 to 12 years. Or the vehicle has the opportunity to be the backup energy source for your home if the grid goes out. And Jenny, we're not too far away from that. As soon as it becomes available, I'll try to remember to let you know.
That is so interesting. Joel, doesn't Tesla have a product that is like mini solar panels, but it's like a roof tile?
Right, the ever coveted and sought after Tesla solar roof. Yeah, so
what is that?
It is a glass shingle system that's been manufactured in, I think, 4 different styles last I checked, to replicate common roof types. And so there are plain glass tiles, and then there are glass tiles with silicon cells injected into them so that you can optimize the placement of the more expensive tiles on your roof to capture solar energy. And then they're a modular plug and play system. So you're roofing your house and you're energizing your house with the same product. They should have an extremely long life, come at a really high premium, and probably be 5 years out, give or take, before they hit the Midwest. We have a Tesla training platform, and I keep watching the button when it won't be grayed out anymore and will be accessible to us because it's highly coveted.
Yeah, that is so crazy. Guys, any other questions for Joel or for Ryan? Okay, cool. Joel, Ryan, thank you so much for being here. I felt like I was kind of nerding out the whole time you guys were talking. That was awesome. And much appreciated. And Joel, I love your suggestion of doing a whole session on knob and tube wiring. I am sure we'll take you up on that. So
it really couldn't be anything that's more boring than that. I apologize.
Yeah, but it's also something that we like run into all the time and need to be more educated on. So yeah, it's a great idea. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you for coming. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Adios.